Bonne soirée à tous et bienvenue à cette rencontre du Comité de dérogation pour la Ville d'Ottawa. Welcome everybody to this hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Ottawa. Before we start, we have a number of comments to make. Just like to remind everybody that this is a quasi-judicial committee that's appointed by the City Council. And this committee has a very narrow jurisdiction, essentially under the Planning Act, and that's to deal with items such as severances and minor variances and permissions. So my name is Anne Tremblay, and I will be the chair for this evening. With me are my fellow colleagues. We've got Mr. Colin White, Ms. Kathleen Willis, Ms. Julia Markovich, and Mr. Scott Hindle. I also would like to mention that we have a very capable committee staff with us this evening that will be providing support, both technical and with regards to planning of hearings and other elements. So we have with us Deputy Secretary Treasurer Cheryl Williams. We have some coordinators that are tremendous and help us with all aspects of our hearings. Ms. Emily Byers, Ms. Mandy Nguyen, and Mr. Alex Jones. All right, so just to also take note that this hearing is being video conferenced through and live streamed through YouTube. You can always access that video and the agenda through the city's website. So, as you know, there's many elements to development within the city, and most of them are actually things that we can't deal with. And just to give you some idea of what that is, if there's an aspect of a development that's not actually part of the application before us, we can't discuss that because we don't have jurisdiction in any event to make any decisions in that regard. We certainly won't talk about property values or property maintenance or any of that, or illegal construction. We won't entertain any negative or derogatory comments about the neighbors or the applicant or the owner or the agent. So we expect everybody to behave very respectfully of everyone involved in these proceedings. And if we find through discussion that in fact there are elements that require greater relief in a minor variance way, then we will need to adjourn that and allow for a full public circulation again of the actual accurate account of what the application is about. We also have statutory public notification requirements. Applicants are required to erect signs on their property, and then typically they would provide us with the statutory declaration. Since we've been online, we've been doing that orally, and we will continue to do that this evening. We can't deal with an application unless we actually have that statutory declaration or the oath or swearing that a sign has been posted on a property. And what I'll remind everyone is you as the agent or the owner have a duty to ensure that when you provide an oath or a swearing that the sign has been posted on the property for the entirety of the time that is required by the regulations, this committee's expectation is that when you do that, and it's on record, that you can in fact provide us with some information about how you monitored that and how you can in fact provide that declaration. So with respect to quorum, if we lose quorum, we will simply defer items not dealt with to the very next meeting of the committee. In terms of the hearing process, so you saw that we have an agenda this evening. I think we have 9 items. We're going to deal with the adjournments first, and then we're going to go to the hearing of the items that are remaining on the agenda. And I don't foresee us requesting any presentations this evening. I think we'll be able to go straight to questions by the committee. And then if there's anybody from the public who would like to speak, I do have a speakers list. And then I'll ask anyone if they have an interest and give them the opportunity to speak. I'll just remind you that if you do that, if you're not already on speakers list, just please ensure that you provide me with your name when you start and your municipal address. And we need to have that for the record. So, and if you do a representation in front of the committee may have some questions for you. So, so don't disappear on us when you're done with your comments. Once all of that is done, of course, the committee can make a decision. So we can either grant an application, we can deny, we can reserve if an issue is very controversial. I don't see that happening this evening. And we can, of course, adjourn a meeting or a hearing item, pardon me. So once all of that is done, there is a formal written decision that is issued within 10 days of the hearing. Note that with the adoption of Provincial Bill 23, which is now in full force and effect and has been since the fall, the committee decisions of the committee continue to be appealable within a 20-day time frame, but only by the applicant, the minister, or a specified person or body that has an interest in the matter. And there is a definition for specified person, which does not include an individual or a community association. So that pretty much completes my opening remarks. So I do need to get to a couple of items of business. So does any member on the panel have to declare conflict of interest on any of the items that would have been before us for tonight or before any of the panels previously? Today, yes, yeah, today. All right, for the record, there's absolutely no declarations of conflict of interest. We do have a couple of minutes that we need to ratify. So for February 1st, do I have a mover to adopt? Yes, thank you, Member White, and I need a seconder to adopt. Thank you, Member Hindle. On the February 15th, I need a mover. Member Willis, thank you very much, and I need a seconder. All right, I think Mr. White was faster on that. So I'll go with Mr. White. Perfect. So we've got the minutes done. All right, which means that we can go straight to our adjournment requests at this point. And we have quite a number. We're going to start with number 5, looking for Mr. Segreto on the application affecting 1245 Prince of Wales.
Good evening, Madam Chair, panel members.
Good evening, Mr. Segreto. Could you just please summarize for us very briefly the purpose of the adjournment?
There seems to be some issues with some of the accessory buildings that we have, and we need some time from the legal department and from the building code department to clarify these accessory buildings. Therefore, I'm requesting an adjournment for a month because we have to go through the legal department.
All right, so you need to go to April 15th. April 15th? No. What date would that be, Ms. William?
It would be April 19th.
April 19th. All right, so Mr. Segreto, that's what we're aiming for?
Yeah.
All right, any questions for Mr. Segreto at this point? No? I don't have anybody on the speakers list for this item. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak either for or against the adjournment to April 19th for the property at 1245 Prince of Wales? Now's your chance. Not seeing anybody. So in that case, members of the panel, all those in favor? All right, for the record, the application is unanimously adjourned to April 19th. So thank you very much, Mr. Segreto, on that.
Thank you.
All right, next one up for an adjournment is item number 6 for 136 and 138 Acacia Avenue. I'm looking for Mr. Thor and Mr. Chow. Good evening.
Yes, Madam Chair, I gave Ms. Sewer the evening off for this one.
Oh, okay.
So, Madam Chair, just briefly, you'll recall we were before you a few weeks ago on this property, and there were 2 issues that the committee wanted us to address before we came back for a decision. Those 2 issues, firstly, was to deal with the staff condition requiring a geotechnical study to demonstrate that the vacant lot was developable. That geotechnical study has been completed, has been submitted to the city, reviewed by the city, and they've concluded that there are no issues with developing the vacant lot, and that is reflected in the updated report that staff have provided to you for the hearing this evening. The second item that we were to go away and try to come back with a definitive answer on was whether or not there were two lots, and if there were two lots, have they merged on title? Mr. Gibson provided an initial legal opinion on that to the committee and to staff several weeks ago. Staff are to be commended, both planning staff and staff at the city archives, on doing a deep dive into the history of these properties, which has led us to ask Mr. Gibson to look a little deeper himself into whether or not these properties were separate lots, and do they continue to be separate lots, or have they merged in title? That is a work in progress. I spoke as recently as yesterday with Mr. Gibson. He informs me that he's just waiting to track down one last piece of the puzzle before he will be in a position to update his legal opinion. And so with that in mind, we would ask that these applications be adjourned to the hearing of April the 5th, which is 3 weeks from now. I'm quite confident that Mr. Gibson will have completed his work well in advance of that date, will have shared the information with the committee and city staff in time for them to review it.
All right, thank you. So that's an April 5th date.
Please.
All right, I'd just like to speak with Ms. Clazero. Clazero, yes. Ms. Clazero, and your opinion then, I just want to make sure you have enough time, because we're going to expect this to be rolled into our report, a revised report to the committee. So you feel comfortable that you have enough time to do that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I don't know how much information we'll have to review, but I sort of have an understanding of the history of the two properties, and so there's only a few small pieces that that we're looking for. So if, as Mr. Chown says, there's only one more thing that they're looking for, then I think I could probably review it next week. We have an extra week between hearings, so I think it'll be okay for the 5th.
All right, okay, thank you. Any questions from the panel members for either Mr. Chown or Ms. Clazero? Yes, Ms. Willis.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just I'm looking at the staff report, and I'm just a bit curious as to what turns on the result of this further investigation on the whether or not they've merged. And it says that staff are unable to ascertain whether the two parcels have merged, and or whether 136 and 138 Acacia may be severed through processes under the Planning Act. I think the first question would be to Ms. Clazero to explain that a little bit more. Just, I don't understand it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we're sort of still trying to figure out, as I said in the report, whether the two lots have merged on title or not. So it may be possible that the 138 can be conveyed without needing a severance application. If they have not merged on title, they can be conveyed separately without needing to come to the committee, at which point the application would then be a lot line adjustment if the two new owners of the properties want to adjust the lot line to reflect what's been applied for under the current application, or not. If they choose not to go that route, if they just want to convey 138 to a new owner, they wouldn't need to come through the committee to do so, provided the lots have not merged.
So wouldn't they have to come to the committee in either event?
So the lot line adjustment, yes, but if there is no lot line adjustment, then no.
I see. I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions from the committee? All right. Again, in terms of my my speakers list, actually in this case, I do have a couple of people on my list. So are any of these folks, Ms. Peterson, Mr. McCartney, and Ms. Heyman, does anybody want to speak to the request for adjournment to April 5th? All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward, so I'm going to open it up. Is there anyone at all in the audience who would like to speak to this request for adjournment to April 5th? All right, I'm not seeing anyone. So members of the panel, all those in favor of the adjournment? All right, for the record, the application is unanimously adjourned to April 6th. And so, sorry, April 5th. So good luck to you, Mr. Town, and we'll see you in 3 weeks.
Hopefully we have some answers for you by then. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. All right, the next applications is actually 2. We're looking at items 7 and 8 for consent and minor variance. For 28 Oak Ridge, I'm looking for Mr. Bond. Good evening, Mr. Bond.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you fine.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Yep.
Can you just briefly tell us what the purpose of the adjournment is, please?
Absolutely. I had a call, a Teams call recently with staff and a planning forester at the city. The purpose of the application was initially to create 2 lots at 28 and 30 Oak Ridge to create 2 houses. And in order to do so, we had to work around a couple of trees, which the planning forester would like us to protect. And we now have to update our TIR. We were hoping to do so for today, but due to the challenges associated with March break, we have not been able to reach the designer or the gentleman who did the TIR report. So we have to modify a servicing and grading plan and modify a TIR so that everything matches up with our new site plan, which I think will address the concerns of the planning forester and city staff.
All right, okay, Mr. Bond, we did see that there's an awful lot of discussion by in the planning report that tells us that the city's taking obviously very seriously putting into place the official plan policies that apply in this case.
Yes.
So we're going to adjourn sine die on this one. Is that your understanding?
No, I was under the understanding we'd adjourn until the next date, which would be April the 5th, which would give our designer enough time to match up his plans with that TIR report that was prepared.
Okay, so my sense in reading the staff report is that there's more discussion than that's required. I'm going to call on Ms. Young, if you can come forward, Ms. Young, on this. So I just want to get some sense of the level of effort from you in terms of getting this in a shape that you think you would be prepared to support. You're on mute, Ms. Young.
Thank you. I think through the discussions with the applicant, really there's not a lot more review to do. It really depends on the findings of the TIR. We need it to say definitively if the new plan can retain these trees or not. If it comes back saying they cannot be retained, then more discussion is needed. But I'm not sure that that's it.
So I guess what my concern, Ms. Young, is that it may trigger a discussion about a redesign of what's happening on site and the placement of the buildings, and that's quite a bit of a change. Do you anticipate that may be possible?
It is possible if the TIR comes back saying that this design won't allow for tree retention, then redesign would be needed. So yeah, I think we weren't thinking sine die, honestly, when we were discussing this, but possibly the later April date, I would think. I mean, from my perspective, it would be enough, but I don't know like from the applicant's perspective, how long it would take if there did have to be a redesign.
All right, so let's come back to that in a second. I see Member White has his hand up, so go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question on the trees again. Perhaps Ms. Young can help here. It appears and I understand that there's been a new site plan submitted, and unfortunately I don't have it in front of me, but it appears that some trees may be impacted, may be located on a neighboring property. Am I correct in that? And if so, there are implications, I think, if that's the case, in terms of involving the adjacent property owner in agreement with respect to removal of any trees that may be required as a result of the development. Am I correct in that? Is there some issue there?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we do need confirmation about, I think it was 1 or 2 of the trees on the side, and just that they have permission to be removed. I know my colleague Haley was working more closely on that one, so I'm not sure if some of this has already been done, but it's certainly something we can work out in a relatively short timeline, I think.
Thank you.
All right, so I think what I'm hearing is an April 19th date. So Mr. Bonnet, that'll give us a little more time to work through some of these issues, talk to neighbors, that kind of thing. So with that, and thank you, Ms. Young. So with that, then I don't have any speakers. So anybody else on the panel before I go there? Any questions further? All right, so we're gonna go with the 19th of April. Anyone in the audience have any comments they'd like to make either for or against the proposal to adjourn this item, these 2 applications to April 19th? All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward. So with that, I need a motion, or no, actually what I need is a vote. So all those in favor? All right, so with that, for the record, the application is unanimously adjourned to April 19th. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Bond. All right. The last application is number 9. It's for 2666 10th line. My understanding is we do not have the agent with us this evening, as there's no issue. There's, I believe the reason for this adjournment, sine die in this case, is because the application is premature and will be back at some form at a probably much later date, I would think. So with that, then I need a motion, and I'm going to ask, is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak to this adjournment sine die for the property at 2666 10th line? All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward. So then committee members, all those in favor of an adjournment sine die, for the record, the application is adjourned. All right, thank you. That takes us to application number 1. Application number 1 then is for 224, sorry, and 226 Castlefrank. I'm looking for Mr. Zhang. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. So I'm going to need to read to you, and then I'm going to need you to say either I swear or I affirm when I'm done. So do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted first at the property to which the application applies, that the sign was there for the prescribed number of days prior to the hearing, and that the sign was at all times visible and legible? Can you either swear or affirm that to be true?
Sorry. I think I need my daughter to help me some words.
All right.
Okay. Could you speak? Could you repeat again?
All right. So where's your daughter? So maybe if we see her.
She's here.
Hi. Hello. Can I just have your name for the record, please?
My name is April.
Okay. So, all right. So April.
Yeah.
Under the Planning Act, there's a requirement that anyone who has an application has to erect a sign on the property for a certain amount of time under the Planning Act. And then when we get into these hearings, what we need to hear is that we need to hear either right or, whether it was done or not, that there was in fact sign erected on the property and it was there for all of the time that was required, and that somebody could easily read it and see it at all times. So that's what I need from your father, is to either tell me that yes, he swears or he affirms that that's true, or that he is unable to. And if he is unable to, then that means that we can't deal with the application tonight.
Yes.
So did you want, okay?
Yeah.
Can you,
Yeah, I understand the most.
so can you affirm or swear to us that that sign was posted
Yeah, I
as
swear.
required?
Yeah. that's-
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That's all. That's good. Thank you so
That's
much
it?
for you. Well, no, don't go away. That's just the first part. That's
Oh,
the
okay.
first part. So, okay. So your application is for a consent, and we. I don't need a presentation from you this evening. Typically, we ask for presentations, but we don't. This is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask the committee members whether or not they have any questions for you.
Okay, sure.
All right. Ms. Member Willis, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, my question is of staff. And it's just clarification on the recommended condition number 2 regarding the requirement to demonstrate that cash in lieu of parkland has been provided, or parkland has been provided in the past. I just wanted to clarify first what that means, whether or not, because there's a severance involved, that whether that is going to be cash in lieu for the creation of one additional lot, and if so, why it applies in this case, since I'm assuming that both units are occupied. So I don't remember who did the, Alex.
Mr. Gassin. Mr. Gassin.
Gassin?
Yes. Mr. Gassin.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I may need to check with park staff to get a response, but typically if there's a Planning Act application and parkland dedication has not been provided, it would have to be provided at this time.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding you, Mr. Getty.
Sorry. Yes, so because there's a Planning Act application that would trigger the requirement for parkland dedication. And in this case, it would be cash in lieu, as the parcel's obviously too small for an actual like land dedication.
So what you're requiring is cash in lieu for the additional lot that's being created? The reason I'm asking is we had a lot of debate over this over the last few years, and unless something has changed recently, if the units are already occupied, and so there's 2 households there already, the severance application does not trigger cash in lieu of parkland for the additional unit because it's already occupied. It's only in new construction that the cash in lieu gets applied to the new lot. Now, unless that's changed in the last, I don't know, the last big debate was probably about 8 months ago, I think, Madam Chair, we had clarification on this because we had problems with it every time it came up.
That's right. So, and I think we were also wondering whether or not the staff had looked into the subdivision agreement and whether or not that had already been covered, even, so notwithstanding the fact that there's really not the creation of an additional household. On top of that, maybe it was all taken already. So, Mr. Gassin, can you confirm any of that for us?
I think I will have to do some more research into the subdivision agreement. I mean, presumably would be.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I don't think if it's in the subdivision agreement previously, I think that's okay because they're just asking that to provide evidence. But what's not clear is whether they're asking for evidence that the second lot has, that's the problem I'm having, is that I don't think they're entitled to collect it. Maybe another of the planners can answer that question.
Ms. Kelly, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So no, we would not collect cash in lieu of parkland dedication if the units have been occupied or if a building permit's been issued for 2 years. If you give us a moment, Alex and I can check that for the committee.
Okay.
All right, so you can confirm it, but I think where we're going with all this is the deletion of this condition, essentially, because we don't see it as being applicable. Have I understood you, Ms. Willis? Okay.
Yes,
Anybody
yes.
in the committee Anybody at the committee side have any objections with deleting that condition? All right, I'm seeing no. Member White, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this further to the parkland discussion. This plan is this development is on a registered plan of subdivision that occurred back, I think, probably in about the 1970s or earlier. And there would have been on that plan of subdivision parkland dedication to the extent of 5% of land. So I have no problem with the deletion of that condition, notwithstanding and this the other argument with respect to the occupancy of the units. I'm sure these units have been occupied for most of the time between the original building of the unit. Secondly, I just wonder if I could get clarification on the process to satisfy the other conditions. For example, the party wall, 1 hour separation. I'm assuming that that's going to involve a search of the original building permit. Is that how that would transpire? Also, with respect to how the confirmation of the independent services, I'm assuming that might be part of the building permit review of the original building permit in the files of the city. So those two questions, perhaps staff can advise me as to how that would transpire.
So we've seen this, I think this is routine. Condition number 1's routine in these situations. So we have applied it. I can assure you that's happened. The mechanics of it, though, in terms of clearing that condition, we haven't discussed in depth in any way. So I'm going to call upon, not sure, Ms. Williams, whether or not you can provide that information. And if not, then maybe we can ask Ms. Kelly or Ms. Glazero.
I believe for the 1 hour fire separation, they would get in touch with a building inspector that requested the condition be added, and they would come out and check the house. As for independent services, I'm not quite sure on the mechanisms for clearing that condition.
All right. So there would be material with regards to the subdivision, that kind of thing. So I'm not seeing an issue with clearing those, Member White. So
yeah, Madam Chair, perhaps at some point we could get some clarification on sort of the general answer to that general question from staff.
Absolutely, getting a presentation about how you clear some of these conditions, right? What does it mean? So, okay. All right. Any other questions?
No, thanks.
All right. Anybody else from the panel? No. There's no one on my speakers list for this item. So I'm going to make a call out. Is there anyone in the audience who has who wants to speak either for or against this application for consent? It's an existing semi-detached. We're looking simply at creating 2 different ownerships on the property. Does anybody want to speak to the panel about that? All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward, so I'm going to go to a vote. All those in favor? So Ms. Willis, you're on mute.
Madam Chair, we're not waiting for an answer on this from some clarification from Ms. Kelly.
So we can, you're right, because we would be approving, and I should have mentioned that with the amendment that we're deleting condition number 2. But Ms. Kelly, what can you confirm to us?
Yeah, so we checked the city's records, Madam Chair, and so the construction building permits were issued in 2000 for the building, so we would not collect cash in lieu.
So there we go. Thank you very much. All right, Member White, you're on mute.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I'm a little surprised that the buildings were built in 2000. Is that what we're being advised?
Oh, Ms. Kelly, you are on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 3 construction permits that were issued in 2000 and then 2009. I think there's a 3rd in 2010. I'd have to go into the details for each, but the construction permits have been issued.
So
okay.
This is as this building was built as recently as 2000. My understanding is that subdivision has been there since the early 1970s.
Alex, can you join us?
It looks like the building, yeah, would have been built sometime in the early 70s, and there's probably no record of the permit, I would think, for the original construction, at least in our files.
It's more like,
Okay. Yeah, so the 3 records that we have listed online currently are from 2000, 2010, and 2009. We could dig into the details of each, but in either case, we wouldn't be requesting cash in lieu.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kelly. So we are deleting condition number 2. So back to the vote. All those in favor?
sorry, Madam Chair, just also with respect to that condition on the noise levels. Again, if this building was built in the 1970s, people have been living in it since that time. I'm just questioning, is it appropriate for us to apply that condition?
So all they're asking for is a covenant on title for future owners. And I guess there probably wasn't a plan of subdivision, as I think we heard, so that may not have been there, but it might be that, and I haven't looked at where this is in relation to whether it's the airport or, the distance from an arterial road. But my sense is that it's probably appropriate to apply it if it triggered those requirements.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going for the 3rd time. It's going to be a going, gone thing. So all those in favor on the committee? All right. So for the record, the application for consent is unanimously granted for the properties at 224 and 226 Castlefrank. So thank you very much, Mr. Zhang. Good evening.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. All right, application number 2, folks, is what's next. We've got Mr. Fernandez. We're looking at properties 3535, 3545, and 3555 Borrisokane Road. I got Mr. Fernandez. Can the coordinators confirm that we have Mr. Fernandez in attendance?
Madam Chair, he's joining us right now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. As soon as we have someone on screen. All right.
Good evening.
Can you confirm your name for me, please?
I'm Deneen Whiting. I'm Mr. Fernandez's associate.
Sorry, Deneen Whiting?
Yes,
And do you work for Mr. Fernandez?
I do.
All right. Okay, with that then, I do need to read to you, and you need to either swear or affirm when I'm done. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies, that it was there for the prescribed number of days prior to the hearing, and that it was at all times visible and legible? Can you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I affirm.
All right, thank you very much. So with that, no presentation is required. We do have a housekeeping amendment to the notice. So let me read this to you, and then I need you to confirm it. So to the notice, we are changing the following. The applications indicate that the property is, we're striking not the, so the applications that indicate that the property is subject, striking of any other current. So let me read it again. The applications indicate the property is subject, and we're adding to a site plan control application, bracket D07-12-22-0085, unbracket, and a minor variance application, bracket D08-02-22/A-00164, unbracket, for a proposed car wash, which was adjourned sine die in July 2022, and then the rest remains, under the Planning Act. Can you confirm that we're making those changes?
I confirm.
All right, so for the record, we are amending the notice to read as I have just suggested. Okay, no presentation required from you this evening, Ms. Whiting, but we can open it up to questions from the panel on this application. The consent. Anyone? We're looking at easements here. Any questions about those easements? No? All right, so pretty straightforward. No one on my speakers list for this, so I am going to make a call out to the public. Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against this application? It's an application for consent, but it simply is in relation to easements on an existing property. Anyone have any comments? No. All right. So with that, then I guess we can go to a vote.
I do have a quick question.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have a quick issue with one of the conditions on the application for the servicing easement. Not an issue per se. Section 2.2 of it requires an ECA. We were just hoping to have that requirement as part of the site plan control application instead of the severance application, so that the owner could sell the 2 parcels as vacant land, and that would not allow the new owner to go through and develop their own site plan with the services on it.
Okay, I'm going to look for some guidance here from Ms. Kelly. So Ms. Kelly, would you be comfortable with that? We didn't talk about where we were with that site plan necessarily, but are you comfortable with that change?
Madam Chair, so I can provide a little bit of background as well for clarification. So there is an environmental compliance approval that's currently underway for the site plan control application, which is for the car wash, which is on parts 1 and 2 on the reference plan that was submitted with the application. And so the requested condition number 2 is just kind of been requested by engineering staff to follow due process should the situation arise that environmental compliance approval is not submitted with the ongoing site plan. So I think there's a very low risk from the city's perspective if the condition was removed. But we have requested it just in terms of following standard procedure when there are properties essentially relying on services that are not independent.
So if they're already in process in terms of applying for this, and so all of the review periods and all of that, it seems to me that one way or the other, easy condition to clear.
Correct. Once the ECA is submitted with that site plan application, the engineer would be able to clear condition 2.
All right, so it's just adding an element of caution.
Correct.
All right. I'm comfortable with leaving it, to be quite honest with you, because as far as I can see, it's not going to hold up anything with regards to the severance or the easements, in this case. Member White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wonder if from Ms. Williams, if we could get a feeling as to why they have a concern with if our committee imposes that condition. It sounds to me like the city's not entirely insistent upon it, but perhaps I could just understand what the concern is from the point of view of the applicant.
Thank you. Our concern is that if it's a condition on the severance, our client who's looking to sever and then sell vacant land parcels won't be able to get consent and then convey the land to the new owner. And it would be the new owner that would be doing their site plan agreement for whatever purpose. In this case, it would be a car wash. So they would have the services as part of their site plan agreement. Essentially, what it obligates our client to do, the owner, the current owner, is to develop the land, have all the services as per site plan applications kind of ready to go before they could even sever to sell.
I see.
Sorry.
I see. So the application is actually only in relation to the car wash, not to the remainder of the parcels that you're looking to divest, correct?
Correct. Our client's looking to sever into 3 parcels. They'll retain 1 and sell the other 2. And this car wash is going to be on one of those after it's been sold.
Okay. Member White? Go ahead.
Chair, if I could suggest that both the sites would be subject to site plan control. There'd be adequate opportunity, I think, for the city to apply whatever condition they require on each of the site plan applications approvals. So I'm not averse to seeing us drop that condition.
Yeah. Any other thoughts from members of the panel? Member White, or sorry, Member Willis.
I would tend to agree. I'm not sure I fully understand, but if there was no severance process, then it would all sort of fall together. My understanding is that it's because there would be shared services in the, is that correct, through the easement? So it's probably bringing clarity, but if it goes through site plan approval and they're separate parcels, it'll get caught anyway. So I'm agreeing with Mr. White.
Yeah, I think so too, just based on the explanation that we got from Ms. Kelly. So, all right. So with that, where am I with, so number 2, again, no one on our speakers list. Did I go through that? I think I made the call out. Or did I'm going to do it just in an abundance of caution. Anyone have any comments for or against on this application? Okay, not seeing anybody come forward. So now we're voting on the application for consent for these easements with the amendment that we are deleting condition number 2. All those in favor? All right, for the record, the application is unanimously granted. So thank you very much, Ms. Whiting, for your time this evening.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, application number 3. And so this is for 290 Smyth. And I'm looking for, I believe, who's the Mr. Tamaz Stroinsky. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. How's it going?
Going great, thanks.
Yeah, I see you guys just rocking it.
Just the need to read to you. So do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted first at the property to which the application applies, that it was there for the prescribed number of days prior to the hearing, and that it was clearly visible and legible for the entirety of that time? Do you either swear or affirm that to be true?
I do affirm that to be true.
Great. I also have a housekeeping amendment to make to the notice. So let me just read out the change. In terms of the legal description, we are adding part of Lot 1 Registered Plan 638. Can you confirm that?
You're asking me that?
Yes, I am asking you that.
Okay, yes. I'll confirm that. I trust the people I've been working with.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. No presentation required from you this evening, so I'm going to open it up directly to the members of the panel for any questions with regards to the construction of a secondary dwelling unit in the basement of an existing dwelling. Any questions at all? All right, well, I'm not seeing, or am I seeing?
I saw it too.
It looks like it changed your mind. Member White, have you got a question or comment you'd like to make?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a bit of clarification on what's happening with the driveway. I think there's an existing circular driveway. One of the plans was showing, was originally submitted, I think, was showing that additional access was to be eliminated. Now we're going back to the original, I think the original condition, but there's also mention of some alteration to grading there. Maybe if I could just get some clarification on the significance of those alterations. My understanding is that we're going to stay with the double entrance driveway, the curved driveway in the front of the building, but what's the change in grading that's happening?
I'm assuming you're looking to me to speak to that.
Yes.
So due to flooding issues, I have to fill in my garage and regrade that portion so it actually slopes towards the city street. That's the regrading.
But the circular aspect of the driveway is remaining, correct?
Correct. And it would need to merge into what's regraded, but that section of it it's fairly like consistent with what it is now.
And my understanding is that the planning branch has no issues with the retention of that double entrance on the Smyth.
Correct. Are you looking for an answer for Mr. Groupe?
Either or the planner on the file.
Well, I believe Mr. Groupe is our planner on file, so.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Correct. So it's an existing non-complying driveway with the loop. We couldn't confirm that the driveway was put in place when the bylaw would not allow the double or the looped driveway. Therefore, it was existing before the bylaw would not have allowed it. So because there's no proposed changes, no soft landscape being taken away from the property, we didn't have an issue keeping that the way it is.
Thank you.
All right. So with that, I'm going to go to the public on this. So I have no one on my speakers list. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak either for or against this application for minor variance, very minor, at 290 Smyth Road? All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward, so I'm going to go to a vote. All those in favor? Okay, for the record, the application is unanimously granted, so good luck to you, Mr. Storinsky.
Thanks. Take care, everyone.
Bye now. Last but not least, application number 4. We're looking at 500 Earl Gray Drive. I'm looking for Evan Saunders. Good evening, Mr. Saunders.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
I'm going to read to you before we get started. So, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted first at the property to which the application applies, that it was there for the prescribed number of days prior to the hearing, and that it was at all times visible and clearly legible? So can you either swear or affirm that?
I swear.
All right, thank you so much. No presentation again this evening required from you on this. So questions from the committee on this application to enter into a long-term lease. Pretty straightforward application. Not seeing anybody with questions. Going to the public on this. I have no one on my speakers list. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak either for or against this proposal to extend a long-term lease at the property at 500 Earl Gray Drive? All right, I'm not seeing anybody. So with that, I think we can go to a vote. Members, all those in favor of this, this application? All right, for the record, the application is unanimously granted. And I think that's all we need. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
this
Madam Chair.
evening.
Thank you, committee.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of our agenda. So I need a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Member Willis. Thank you, Ms. Margovich. So we've got, so we're adjourned. Again, I'd like to thank our planning staff and our committee staff. So thank you, Ms.